I just say thank you to ACS, not just for putting on a fantastic launch tonight and filling the room. We've just been through a pandemic and we've still got a war going on, and isn't it great that we can all come together and look at the way we're going to go forward, and the work that you're doing in terms of my flavour of the month is resilience. Yeah, and resilience is about planning for the future, and everything I think you're hearing about tonight is doing just that, particularly with the apprentices and all the work that you're doing with the local charities and everything. So thank you, that's great. So I'm going to take the opportunity tonight, if I may, just to talk about a period of unprecedented change. So never in my long industry experience have I ever seen as much change as we're now experiencing. And I guess we're ready for it, I guess we're up for it, but it's a big challenge that lies ahead for everybody. So, the two big issues, climate change, and I would say nature change as well. So let's join those two things up in the 3030 agenda, and the building safety. Building safety is critical to our future. So what I'm going to do in the next few minutes, if I may, is just examine where we've got to and how we got to, and the work that we're doing at Birmingham City University, where I'm pleased to work to try and help with what we need to do. First and foremost, I am of the belief, and I hope many of you are in the room, that we should be making decisions based on evidence, not on modelling, not on projections, not on people shouting the loudest, as Sarah says, but rather actually getting into the detail and understanding what happens. So in setting up the Centre for Future Homes at Birmingham City University, well, that's our mission, is to actually get into the detail, get to understand what happens in reality, and how we merge factual evidence, contextual evidence, and experiential evidence together to get to where we need to get to. So I just thought I'd share with you just a few of the areas that we're working on within the Centre of Future Homes at the moment. And I'll start actually where you probably didn't expect me to start, which is retrofit. So as much as we talk about new building, whether it's homes or commercial buildings, the big prize in the room remains retrofitting the existing stock. Just in homes alone, we've got 19 million homes to retrofit between now and 2050 to EPC level C, else we won't meet our climate change targets, we won't achieve it. So anything we do in new build, whether in domestic or commercial, is actually small beer in terms of the overall targets. So we have to get into that area. So we're working very hard on that. Currently supporting Birmingham City Council with the largest retrofit programme in the country, 2,000 homes. Again, it's about understanding not just the functional, but the behaviour changes that need to be assessed. Project 80, which I'm going to come back to you and talk to you about in some detail. We've now moved on from Project 80, so we're going to be doing 31 homes to the Future Home Standard in Nottingham, which we're going to be sold rather than rented. The Midland Heart project is rented. So we want to understand the dynamics of that and how people live in new homes. Because if I am right, 50% of the issue that we're dealing with is actually behavioural. And that's about all of us on our journey to net zero. Guys mentioned the electric car fleet that you have and things like that. We have to change our lifestyles, guys. We can't carry on doing everything we're going to do and meet the climate change targets. Things have to change. So we have to bring people with us on that journey. Okay. Indoor air quality and overheating research. We've got 2 PhD students sponsored by Barrett's Redrow and Taylor Wimpey, who are really looking into that, because what we've got to be careful of in everything we do is unintended consequences. So if we start to seal our buildings up, for instance, do we produce air quality that's not sufficient to maintain good health? Do we have properties that start to overheat? Bear in mind that we've just been told that we're going to miss our 2030 global warming target. So we're going to see our buildings overheating, our climate overheating. We're going to see long periods of 40 degrees in the summer months. We're going to see wildfires. We're going to see things that we've never experienced before. Droughts, we're going to see strong winds. Those of you who saw the news quite recently about the storms across the US, with whole townships just completely written off, just gone. How's that resilient? So these are the sort of things that we're looking at in the research that we're doing. I'll just move that on there to talk about things that are changing. So in the new build sector, no gas from 2025. How many of you in this room have got gas boilers? Get them on eBay quick. Yeah, they're going. So we're on a trajectory to actually move away from gas heating for our properties as we go away from fossil fuels. Heat pumps is one of the major solutions to it, but we don't know enough about heat pumps. So one of the things that we've been doing at the university is bringing people together, all the industry stakeholders in that, and running what we call STEAM challenges to understand the process, understand what we've got to do, understand where the weaknesses, where the testing hasn't been done, all those sorts of things, whether the grid capacity is there, all the things that can make a difference in the future. And then we're backing that up with PhD research. Similarly, on other things that are going to affect us, single-life plastics. We're the biggest user after food of single-life plastics as an industry. Couldn't believe that, would you? But we are. Yeah. So how are we going to deal with that? Because we need to get rid of single-life plastics. It's not acceptable. So we have to find a way. Embodied carbon. Embodied carbon is not what we're dealing with in the short term, because we're dealing with operational carbon in the future home standards I'm going to talk about. But embodied carbon is coming up, but fast on the rails, and that's all about data. We have to get the right data, the whole journey. We can't just map little bits of it. We have to think about where that product's coming from, how long it's going to last for, the 60-year design life that was talked about earlier. What we're going to do with that product end of life. Because if we end up throwing that to landfill, then that's not good, is it? So how do we manage these things through and get the right data? Fire is critical. So we've actually been the first university in the country to offer a degree apprenticeship in fire, and Paul is going to speak to you later. He's one of our students on that course, so thank you, Paul. So that's great, isn't it? That we're now actually manufacturers like ACS are and developers and others are investing in their people to get them up to be qualified fire engineers, because that's what we need to do. We have to have that level of competence in our business. And bear in mind that, I was on a call yesterday and there's about 200 fire engineers only in this country, really, competent fire engineers. What a ridiculous number. How low is that? Yeah. So we have a big job to do in that area. So that's good. And not a lot of what we've done, of course, is provide an experiential learning for our students, which is important. I just want to touch upon Project 80. I don't want to spend a long time on it because I haven't got a long time, but Project 80 is the development we're working on in Handsworth. For the first time in my memory, we're actually building things 2 years ahead of the future home standard coming in. Rather than modelling it, we're building it. We're getting people to live in it. People moved into those properties in June. 12 properties in Handsworth, 12 masonettes in Edgbaston, both in Birmingham, and built to the exacting standards. So what are we trying to achieve there? Well, we want to plot the whole journey. We want to understand that whole thing from how the product was designed, how we moved from a 2013 standard to a 2025 standard, how then we commissioned the supply chain, the building of the development, how it was regulated, how the building control officers interacted with the process, how we recorded key stage photography, because that's a requirement now, the 21 regulations, so that we've got if you like, that golden thread, we can go back and we can understand how that building was constructed. All of these things right the way through to how we commission it and how people live in it. And so since June last year, we've had people living in these homes, and we've been collecting data both from sensors, but also from actual interviews with people to understand how they live. And we've got some amazing results, and the Project 80 case study will come out in July. In June, we could be presenting it back to government, because this is going to influence the future home standard consultation, which is going to take place later this year. It is the only project in the country that has actually been built and people living in it that can provide that data and that evidence that's required. A little bit about sort of the specification. Now I won't bore you with all the details, but we took a masonry approach to it, so resilience. We built to 0.13 in the wall, so fantastic thermal values. We put PV on the roof, not because we needed to do it to get 80% reduction, which is the target, 80% reduction in carbon, but we wanted to help our tenants. And bear in mind, we've made these decisions before the energy crisis came along, so so it was a bit of foresight there. But the PVs actually helped them reduce their bills, which is great. Ventilation, key to everything. Yeah, so we want to make sure that if we are going to seal our buildings up and make them more airtight, and some of our buildings were as low as 2 in terms of airtightness, then that's compensated by a proper ventilation strategy. So yeah, lots of good stuff there. Early lessons, we learned a lot from the construction phase. We used a PIR board in the cavity. It's a 150 cavity for those of you who are interested. So that was a sacrosanct, but we wanted to keep to a 150 cavity if we could. And there were some issues with the insulation and bricklayers getting used to working with that new. But once they got used to it, it was fine. Heating's the big issue, right? So that's the systemic change. So we're all going to have to get used to living at ambient temperatures rather than the boom and bust that gas boilers have. So that's a big issue. We used 3 different types. There's a demonstrator project, 3 different types of heat pump, and so we've got lots of different results and different feedback from the different homes that we've done. Contractor's dream, working with just 12 homes and about 45 variations. So they loved it. Yeah. So there we go. Okay, so that's a little bit about Project 80. Building Safety Act 2023 is why we're really here today, isn't it? So this is a really important thing. So a lot's changed, hasn't it, since that tragic day when we all woke up and saw those pictures coming out of Grenfell. Those of us in the room, I'm sure many of you were shocked, dismayed, upset that this happened on our watch. Yeah, this is something that we never thought would happen at this scale, and it did. And I think every single one of us perhaps felt some responsibility for that. How did we get here? How did we get to that point? So that's actually caused us to have a rethink, isn't it? But a quick reminder about we'd had lots of opportunities to change in the past, haven't we? So in 1666, was it? Pudding Lane, not far from here, the Great Fire of London, and the London Building Act that followed it. We've got a long, long history, right through theatre fires, the King's Cross Railway fire, not far from here, the Bradford City fire. We've had lots of reminders that non-combustibility is absolutely key. So I'm delighted to hear from that ACS are committed to non-combustibility, because why would you build things out of things that burn? It's a fundamental question. So, 2 major pieces of legislation come out of Grenfell. The public inquiry is now completed. The public inquiry and the inquest have been completed, but the public inquiry is still to report. So expect, ladies and gentlemen, more news on that in the autumn of this year as things start to play out from that. And it won't be a surprise to me if we see people getting arrested out of our industry. And that's going to send major, major shockwaves through everybody and everything. But frankly speaking, those of you who listen to the podcasts on Grenfell, on the Grenfell inquiry, can only have been as shocked as I was to hear some of the things that came out. So, interesting times. The Fire Safety Act, a lot to do about the buildings once they're completed and how they're lived in. The fire doors, there's currently a massive programme of fire safety door inspection going on, flat doors in particular. And, unfortunately, finding still a multitude of sins. Every building will now have to be inspected every 12 months. That's a major, major change, and it can require a lot of people to actually fulfil that. So the Building Safety Act is the one that probably affects most of us in the room, and that's really a significant change in the way we do business, okay? So you've got the building regulator, building safety regulator, who's now the HSE. We know HSE. They've been really good at telling us, stop. That's their favourite word, stop. That's not good enough. You will go no further. They're the police of our industry. They're in play now, and obviously that's really, really important that they do that. Okay. Duty holder, roles, engagement strategies, safety cases, all part of the Building Safety Act. So those of you who haven't had the opportunity, go and have a read and think about that Building Safety Act. I haven't got enough time today to explain it all to you, but sufficient to say that there's gateways you've got to get through, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, right from the planning outset to how you deliver a project through to its final submission. And it's involving every single one of us, yeah? There is no hiding places provided by the Building Safety Act. Competence is a key part of it, and competence is something that you can be held to account for, okay? People are going to become criminally liable for their decisions in the future. Criminally liable, not civic liable. Other changes, really, lots of new committees, stronger regulatory powers, a new register now, so if you're involved in building over 18 metres, you've got till October this year to actually register on the government portal. And then you've got to put in place a building safety director to be responsible for the ongoing running the building. So a big recognition that we can do everything right at the beginning. If it changes afterwards, you know, if we start to knock down walls, drill through things, put things that we shouldn't have done, and you know, in the past that's been an open book. Now it's a closed book. We have to report it. It's a mandatory requirement, like HSE, on any of us when we're out on a building site or anything. We see things that aren't right, we have to report it. Similarly, it's going to stop the process of changing specifications on a whim. Yeah, we've seen a lot of that product substitution because it could save a few bob. Yeah, and cause a massive problem. So that's all part of that scene. So, thank you.